What is up, podheads? Back at it for another episode of the Podio Slate podcast. My name is Tony. I am joined most of the time, as always, by Anthony and Nate. How you boys doing tonight?
Let's not all jump at once, Mr. Nate. I'm great. I'm always great. Nothing new there. Nate, you're hanging, right?
Hanging with the best of them, the best nerds in town.
Rolling with the homies. You remember that song?
Coolio, yeah.
Off Clueless soundtrack.
Yep.
There you go.
I do remember that, yeah.
A few weeks ago, we talked Jim Carrey. This week, it's Coolio. Rest in peace.
And Clueless, another movie.
That's right.
One night we were going to rank the Adam Sandler catalog too, so I don't know where this nerdery. Yeah, I don't know where this nerdery is going, but this is what we got for you. But yeah,
well, we talked Hall Pass a few weeks back too.
We did, yeah.
And you watched it, right?
I did, yeah. I took some mental pictures. It was a good time. Yeah, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that movie.
Of which scenes?
A few. There was a few of them.
So we talking music? We talking movies? We talking?
Oh boy, spin the wheel.
Oh, bring back.
So yeah, Nate, we're going to spin the wheel. What do you want to talk about? Movies, pop culture, music?
Let's talk about it all. No, okay. Let's be specific. Let's stay focused.
Get our niche.
Our niche, as some would say.
What niche is this podcast?
Oh, it's nerdery, really. I mean, first and foremost. But yeah, it's music, I would say.
I'd say it's music.
Actually, how would you describe this podcast to like a coworker, or like you're at a family reunion and your cousin that you haven't seen in a few years asks you about the pod? What would you say?
That's a great question, because it's not just, oh yeah, we just geek out on music. No, it's like, well, we geek out on music on a level that you gotta have to have like thick spectacles to really understand.
But none of us are wearing glasses.
It's not normal or healthy.
Oh no, I think it's healthy. I think we determined that in our heavy therapy part 2, right? It's healthy. It's something that people can, like you said, we're saving a lot of copays by just firing up the old Zoom and the microphones every once a week.
That's actually an accurate statement. I can't remember the website, but yeah, it was, if you listen to music and or talk about music in any capacity on a somewhat consistent basis, you are less stressed and therefore in a better state of mind, and is congruent to heavy therapy, or just what is known as music therapy, which is a real practice. It's
real, man. I believe it.
I agree. And I think I would keep it. I don't even know what I would say, because I don't necessarily advertise it. If people ask me about it, I'll tell them about it. But I think it's just, hey, music podcast. And then I'll rattle off some guests and they'll be like, okay, it's not just three guys dicking around in the basement. I mean, it is that. But it's more than that. It's more than that, right?
Right. Yeah. It's all of the above. It's three guys dicking around in the basement. It's we actually legitimately have had some pretty badass guests on, and we just fire up. Like I said, we fire it up once a week, and we talk music with ourselves and whoever's out there listening to us. So we appreciate you doing that. But shit, man, it's been a blast, and we're gonna keep doing it. And we got a pretty good segment for you tonight that we're excited about. It's one that we've kind of talked about a little bit in the past, but never brought to the forefront. And Twan mentioned it this week. It's like, yeah, let's do that. That sounds like fun.
Game changers. We're talking game changers. We're talking maybe albums that change the game, bands that change the game, and for various reasons, right? Because they're a beast live and they changed how people consume a live experience. It could be an album that took a band to a new stratosphere and there were copycats. It could be a band's aesthetic. It could be, the possibilities are endless. And I think that's what kind of drew us to this segment. But it could be band, it could be album. Actually, it could be label. I mean, I didn't come with a label, but there are labels that fit this, Yeah,
that's a good description. It's multidimensional, but also very Podio Slave, because it's we don't have any real formula. We could all be coming to the table with completely different ways of, discussing this subject. So back to how would you describe the podcast to our friends? Well, this subject alone is very much geek central.
That's a great point. This is exactly how I would describe us. And we can talk about whether it's a label that changed the game, or we can talk about a record that's changed the game, or an artist. And we can then talk to maybe that artist. I mean, in prepping for this, things crossed my mind, but I was like, shit, I can't do Thursday, because we talked to Tucker about that. It's already back there in the catalog. Go listen to the episode with Tucker Rule about.
That's a good point.
About Full Collapse. I can't do Thrice's Artist in the Ambulance, because shit, we talked to Brian McTernan, the producer of that record, and it's already there. Like, it's fucking wild that some of that stuff is back there to begin with. So that's where I struggled with my prep, but I have a couple questions for you guys and one pretty good one that we've never really talked about.
That's like low key bragging rights, but it's just being honest.
Oh yeah, I'm telling everybody,
super rad.
look at what we did.
Right. And sometimes you maybe just want to talk about something new. Like, one of the records that came to my mind fits that same thought process, which is Kill Switch, Live or Just Breathing. I'm like, well, we already talked about that.
Yeah, we had Jesse Leach on. Wow.
We're not going to talk about it again, just the three of us. You know, I mean, we could. So who wants to start this off?
One of you guys.
Twan, why don't you lead us off?
I picked a band, and it's a band that we've had the front man on the pod, and I'll tease it. It's the band as a whole. They changed the game for a number of different reasons, but in my eyes, they changed what a band could be and what is, where the music is almost supplemental to the collective that is this entity. And they've created a world that their fans, and even fans, not even fans of the music, just the public, knows about them because of this world that they've created and the storyline behind the band. Any guesses? When I say it, you'd be like, duh.
You said we had a member of the band on?
Had the front man on.
The front man. I'm trying to think of front men that we had on.
Shit, yeah, I'm jogging through guess. I was going to say, is it 311? But no. Front man.
We never had Nick Hexum on.
No, or SA. No. But yeah, Nick is the front man. You're right. Shit.
Think of a storyline, really a movement.
This is where my brain always is like, hey, remember all that shit you know? It's not here right now.
I know. So this is a real stump the tone. I mean, I'm stumped per usual, but
I shouldn't be stumped, but we do have a lot of guests back there.
I know there's a lot, dude.
You want me to tell you?
Yeah.
It's Gwar.
Oh yeah, dude.
Gwar changed the fucking game. Like, their whole entity is just this world that they're from planet Scumdogia. So like there's this whole world that accompanies the actual music, where I was thinking about this. Like, you had Kiss. Kiss wore makeup and they had the antics, but there wasn't this whole, that I know of, this whole backstory and world that you kind of got invited into by being a fan of the band. Then you had, like, I thought of like the Beatles. The Beatles had all those movies where it was more than just the music. It was almost like a Broadway play in some capacity. But Gwar, it's really a collective. And like, they had that Slave Pit Inc., which is a collective of musicians and filmmakers and designers and all that crap. And then there's fans of Gwar that aren't even fans of the music. They just appreciate it for what it is. And then I'll take it a step further. Once you have this world, then the consumerism comes in. It's the merch, it's the live show, it's the antics. And it's just this whole package. I don't know, it just changed the game. Like, I don't know if ICP was a fan of Gwar, but ICP took this torch. That's a movement. It's so much more than the music. It's the whole thing, Gathering of the Juggalos. And this one might surprise you. I think the Wonder Years do this very well, where the music creates this world where there's like references in the songs that people go visit. Like, there's actual places that people go visit, and there's this journey of basically growing up. And I think there's just this world. So I think Gwar, maybe more than anyone, created a world for their band, which changed the game, I think.
And they did it before a lot of people were thinking of doing that. I mean,
no kidding, right?
We talked movies right at the beginning of the episode, and what has Marvel done? What has DC done? What have all these places done? Star Wars, they've built these worlds, there's TV shows, there's movies, there's like places in the fabric of the storyline that they keep trying to show you. Gwar was doing that 35 years ago, 30 years
Insane.
ago.
It's nuts.
Yeah, and not a lot of bands were definitely thinking about that back then. They were making music, and they were trying to build a fan base, and yeah, maybe there's a little bit of a world that gets attached to that, but nobody was doing it this way as early as they were. You're right, they changed the game, absolutely.
They changed the game in like very controversial way of doing it, right? It's not like it's not necessarily like an easy to go to market strategy in terms of band marketing, like way out there. It's basically like a comic book and dream in band format. I think Kiss, as you mentioned, is probably the only somewhat parallel, and maybe they pulled a little influence from that, but it's so avant-garde even on top of that like, yeah, they were just going for it. I mean, in terms of monetary, outlets and merchandising and licensing the name, like that, I doubt that was even part of the plan. It was just like, hey, let's do some wild shit, and
I think you might be right. I think it was a lot of drugs. I think it was a lot of just friends winging it. I mean, we spoke with Blothar, who was, in the band before he took over on vocals, but I don't know. It got me thinking about bands that have created a world, and it tends to be the bands that have the cult followings, that really go to the ends of the edges of the earth for them. I think Wonder Years have done that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Slipknot, they built a world. Holy
Slipknot,
shit.
Oh my God. Yes. 100%.
And I think War influenced Slipknot. If I can remember some article that I read, Corey Taylor, as usual, describing like bands that he just wants to do like a big four tour, kind of like the Metallica, Anthrax tours of the world, Slayer. Who else was on that tour? I can't remember. But regardless, Megadeth, exactly. He wanted to do like a Slipknot, Gwar, Mushroomhead, and Mudvayne tour that all kind of do the makeup thing and all the whole thing. But at the end of the day, like Gwar was like, they were ahead of all that shit. So they de facto influenced all these bands, no matter how you want to slice it. Like they were first to market.
Kiss probably was. You're right, Nate. But Kiss didn't do it the way that Gwar did it. Kiss did it with a mainstream rock. They were a rock component, right? They had the get-ups. They had the backstories of their characters. They wore the makeup and the masks. But the music was pretty straightforward rock. Whereas Gwar is not that. Not even close. Yeah.
I still don't know what Gwar.
I don't think anybody does.
I love the Marvel comparison because you have all these spin-offs, and Gwar could do that all day long. And I think they have done with the comic books. You know what I mean? You could take one little storyline, one little character, one band member, and just have a whole comic book series just based on them, But if you want, here, I'm going to plug us. If you want to hear that conversation, it's episode, 119, maybe 117, something like that.
121?
121. God,
I'm going to go with Tones. Yeah, I'm going to bet on Tones' recommendation.
I think he's right.
Looking it up right now to make sure. I'm pretty sure it's 121.
Listen to that. Blothar, funny dude, and I don't know. I feel like I was formally invited into their world by chatting with him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was great to see him in his getup when we had him on, and yes, it was episode 121. Go back and listen to that.
Nice.
All right, who's next? Who got it?
Nate, you got one.
All right, cool. Yeah, I got a bunch, and fucking great pick. Great way to kick us off. Didn't even think of Gwar, but obviously that's a good point. Again, delaying as usual, but just wanted to kind of give props where props are due. So this segment is very nerdy because it can go in multiple directions, and I seem to tend to gravitate towards not only artist but also album that represents and highlights this subject to the nth degree. So one that I picked in my formative years of music appreciation is Pink Floyd. And I was, at this point in my youth, I call it 12, 13, I was pretty much listening to the 90s music and grunge. So big Pearl Jam fan. And my brother and his friends were listening to things like Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin, which is a completely different side of the music industry and, music appreciation. And I was just kind of taking a step back on, oh, wow, this is a different way that you can do this. And I was floored then, and I'm floored now that the album in particular, Dark Side of the Moon, is so left field from everything that was happening then and even today, and stands the test of time. Released in 1973. If you think about the landscape in Europe for music, then Dark Side of the Moon is like so out of nowhere that it's just mind-boggling. It's like Lateralis dropping in, 2001, when like new metal is happening. It's like, what the fuck? They just didn't give a shit.
That's a good comparison, actually. And actually, not to cut you off, but I thought you were going to say Sugar Ray Floyd when you said Floyd. That changed something.
There's still 37 of those for $2.97 at Bull Moose right now. If you walk into
any record store.
Cash. I need some fucking cash. Remember that song?
Weird. The rest of the album isn't like the song Fly. I'm going to sell this back.
All right, carry on. No, I don't know if you were done, but my quick reaction is they're actually a band that created a world as well. And that's maybe that's going to be a theme with all this, where there's light shows, and they could do, I don't know, Cirque du Soleil, but where I go is the light shows. Those are massive.
I've seen Brit Floyd with Rob and I went to see Brit Floyd at the Civic Center in Maine, Portland, Maine, probably like 8 or 9 years ago. And it's as close to Pink Floyd as you're going to get as far as a tribute band goes. They were awesome. There was a cool light show that went along with it, and it's exactly what it is. Like, there's like planetarium shows with Pink Floyd stuff. There's all kinds of different things that have spawned from at least that record, Dark Side of the Moon, but Pink Floyd in general and the entirety of their catalog. It's funny, Nate, I probably get into them a little later than you, but I liken it to Led Zeppelin. A lot of people say, I remember hearing a quote once, most like adolescent boys or, boys becoming men have a Led Zeppelin phase. And I would say Pink Floyd's the same way. And it's like age 17, 18, you're just like, this stuff was blowing my mind. I didn't know it existed. And then you just rifle through the entire catalog, whether it be Pink Floyd or Zeppelin. And then you're like, all right, I feel like I just learned. You know what I mean? It's like a speed reading situation where you're like, I went through all these books, I went through all these albums, and now I know what it's like to be, 17 in 1977 versus when we grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, well said. It's its own animal, and it's speaking on so much crazy and deep subject matter. I feel like when I listen to Pink Floyd then and even now, it's like reading Kurt Vonnegut or George Orwell. It's like such abstract but somewhat relatable material that's essentially timeless, whether you want to admit it or not, in terms of like just really sketchy and shitty and somewhat realistic scenarios that they talk about in a way it's not rock and roll, right? It's prog rock. So there's a lot of texture, there's a lot of layers there, and the songs are like 9 minutes long, and the imagery, like you said, Twan, with the light shows and even just the artwork for the albums. Dark Side of the Moon in particular is very simplistic. So the songs kind of speak for themselves. But yeah, in terms of era and just getting into it, like it's quintessential.
Well, when you were talking, it got me thinking. I was going to ask you the question of, all right, well, in the spirit of this episode, what changed as a result of this? But you just nailed it. It almost gave this hall pass for bands to be abstract and not just put the musicians on the front of the album. Have this be this prism on a cover of an album when maybe people are used to the Beatles walking across the street, or some who did we oh man, I can't remember. Who was the musician that you picked, Nate, for one of the episodes where the cover was really goofy? It was just a
Modest Mouse.
No, it was a solo guy from like the 70s, and it was just the goofiest typical. It wasn't Bob Seger. It wasn't
Frampton, was it?
Oh, it was Frampton.
Frampton, yeah. Nice. So it wasn't that. It wasn't just the musician acting all goofy and trying to be sexy on the cover. It was a hall pass to do whatever the fuck you wanted to do.
Yeah, exactly. Well said. I mean, it's complete left field for. I mean, you got to think the music industry that we know, especially in the heyday in like the 90s and early 2000s. But then it was even more. It was like piggybacking off the success of artists like Elvis, where it was like, hey, if it moves units, let's pump the shit out of it. And Pink Floyd is like not that. You have to, like I said, be into like George Orwell and things that are just like not necessarily like things that are easy to, I don't know, market to that extent. So it's like, hey, if you like things that have very, very intricate subject matter and, maybe music that doesn't coincide with like the current scene, this is for you. But I don't think anyone was really thinking in that context back then. Now it's obviously timeless. And for a record label to take a risk on something like this is pretty profound at the time.
Absolutely. And yeah, they obviously legendary band at this point. And with Dark Side of the Moon turning 50 this year, that's pretty fucking mind-boggling if you think about it.
Well, we did the What If episode way back. And honestly, you could peel back like, what if this what if Pink Floyd didn't exist? Like, well, you probably wouldn't get. Would you have Dream Theater years later? Would Between the Buried and Me exist?
Right.
Any of these abstract instrumental bands? Yeah, who knows?
What if Syd Barrett stayed in the band? I mean, shit. would we get Wish You Were Here, which is just an amazing record that's kind of an ode to him, or Shine On You Crazy Diamond, which is what parts 1 through 6 is like 26 minutes long. Shit, man. Great call.
The answer's no.
The answer.
Yep. You're right. That's the what if.
And the reason is you.
Okay, Hoopastank. All right, I've got a good one for you guys that we've joked about not talking enough hip hop here, but I'm gonna go 90s OG hip hop.
Ooh, nice. You know I like the 90s.
I think, yeah. I spent a ton of time with his second record, but his first record is it's one of the best debut rap records probably ever. It's always on these like 50 greatest albums lists, wherever you look. Tragically died at a young age. And
Big L?
Nope. New York, though.
Biggie? I mean...
Yeah, Biggie.
Biggie. Okay, yeah.
Oh, wow. Nice.
You said Big L the first time, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was on the big train. Tom Hanks, big?
Yes, Big. Tom Hanks in Big and Robert Loggia. No, it was...
Good. Only you would.
I know. Yeah.
Great movie.
Great movie.
The piano scene? Timeless.
That's it. Robert Loggia and I think it's Robert Loggia and Tom Hanks. But I digress, as Nate always does. No, it's Biggie. And I would tell you that, obviously, those first two records are the ones that came out while he was still alive. Ready to Die and Life After Death, the double album. I spent a ton of time with Life After Death, but Ready to Die is always on the list of 50 best hip-hop records, 50 best records of the 90s, all that stuff. And it's probably the best, or like the most well-received debut rap record ever, I would say, right? It's got to be up there if it's not the best. And I think Jay-Z copped his style. I think Eminem copped his lyricism. I think he just propelled all these other people to do what they do. And without Biggie, you might still get that stuff, but you're not going to get it the same way. And the fact that we had that whole world was front and center in the mid-90s between the East Coast, West Coast stuff, and that's been chronicled a million times. You can go find that elsewhere. But shit, man, without him, we don't get the Bad Boy stuff. We don't get Diddy's career, and Diddy's career was pretty long and illustrious, whether it be musically or as a producer or a TV show host or any of that stuff. I mean, without Biggie, he was the linchpin of all that.
Making the band?
Yeah.
Wasn't he making the band?
Oh, yeah.
And then you get an all-time Chappelle Show skit after it, making fun of it with Dylon, and Dylon. I mean, come on. You can't beat that shit. We don't get any of that without Biggie, right? We don't get any of it. So I think he is easily one of the ones that changed the game as far as that goes.
Well, I think with him, you got a delivery that wasn't overly complex. And I'm trying to give an example of that, but I think if you've listened to him, it's not over wordy like Eminem. It's not doing too much. And his delivery is almost slow. You know what I mean? He proved you can slow it down and be very impactful and rhyme like no one else. I mean, Tupac, in some ways, you could say that about as well, but we're not talking about Tupac.
Well, they're forever linked, right? They have to be. Yeah. For better or for worse. But you're right. It's a slowed down, Biggie, can't you see? And it's that whole the Hypnotize song is all slow, and so is Big Papa, right?
Heavy D up in the limousine,
right.
You could. I mean, that's. I don't know. I mean, do we know that Eminem he said Biggie's a big influence, and lines like that, you can clearly tell.
Mm-hmm. Well, and he was on Dead Wrong, which was off the posthumous record that came out when we were in high school, freshman year maybe.
That's a good point. The pace or the clip in terms of how fast they're rapping, I think is a good thing to bring up, because there was part of the scene. I mean, Nas is pretty slow too, but a lot of rap and hip hop is how fast, what cadence are you moving at? And Biggie was very much slowed down. And this is completely random, but Twan, you said something in terms of, the simplicity and slow tempo of the music. Just reminds me, it's Biggie is the Kings of Leon of hip hop. It's simple but fucking solid, right? This is the cream of the crop, well marketed, but changed the game. I mean, I don't want to say Kings of Leon changed the game, but very much so, very well done and pronounced. And yeah, dude, Biggie.
The thing is, he had his style, but then take Notorious Thugs, he can hang with anyone.
Yeah, you're talking about the first track off the second disc of Life After Death with the Bone Thugs, right?
Yeah.
Go listen to that fucking song. Oh man, talk about a perfect song.
Man, nerd's gonna nerd.
So yeah, Biggie.
That was a great pick.
All right, Twan, what do you got?
All right. I'm going to pick an album that we all know and love. Everyone all knows and loves. The album before, so let me back up. I'm picking an album right now. The album everyone knows, the band everyone knows. It's Enema of the State.
Nice.
It blew up. It was everywhere. TRL, award shows. I mean, they broke through with Dude Ranch with Damn It, like that was on the radio. But Eminem, Enema is what put them on another scale. You know, poppier songs, better production, new drummer. So why or how did this album change the game? Well, it proved that a punk rock band, in quotes, because some people will fight you on that, doesn't have to be serious all the time. It proved that punk rock doesn't have to be, you know, this fuck you, fuck off, fuck authority message all the time. It can be goofy, and it could still have the ethos but have that pop sensibility. Green Day did it. We know that, but not to this degree. Like Green Day in like the Walking Contradiction video, like they're goofy. We get it. But Blink leaned into that, and why it changed the game and how it changed the game. Labels took notice, bands took notice. I mean, look at that first Phoenix TX record, the Rooster song. That ain't happening without Blink. NFG, the direction they went in for a few years, bands like Bowling for Soup, labels were looking for this. You know, they were in every teenage movie going, but they changed the game because it didn't have to be the Pennywise, you know, political stuff, all that. And it could be quote unquote punk and appeal to the masses and be silly and goofy. And just, I think it changed the game. Because look what happened after this.
Absolutely. So many bands followed their lead and went the goofy pop punk route because it worked. And I mean, there was an appetite for it. It wasn't just, all right, we got a Blink record every couple of years, every 3 or 4 years. Cool. We'll have another one that sounds kind of like the last one, but is maybe a little bit more polished. No, more bands just kept doing what they did because it worked. And some of it didn't work. We got some terrible stuff too out of that, but
That's right.
They changed the game so that all that stuff would happen, right?
That's a good point. A lot of bands are kind of running through my head, like Sum 41. They rode that train for sure, especially with the music videos.
Yep.
Music videos in particular, it's like, oh, dude, this is a Blink riff times 20, like easily. But beyond that, like goofy, having fun, are some really solid songwriting and instrumental song building that like also kind of get to a new level. I think like Blink really, with this record, brought it to a new level. I mean, you got to think Mark and Tom, they're writing songs in their own style, and they obviously harmonize together as well. And then you got Travis, this just beast, one of the best drummers of all time behind the kit. Yeah, definitely changed the game. And in fact, this one didn't come to mind, but now that I'm thinking of it, it's like quintessential to changing the game for punk rock, but really music collectively, because it's every element of Blink-182 in this record is like 10 out of 10. Like they were firing on all cylinders. They were really putting it all out there. And I think it's in a weird way under recognized if you really dig deep on this record.
It was a turning point. And the irony is they did it again 2 albums later. They changed the game with self-titled. And we're not going to do a deep dive on this because we'll probably do it in the future, but
save it.
The only thing I'll say is they gave a hall pass that it's okay to grow up and mature. You don't have to do the dick jokes until you're 50. And I think they still do that, but that was a time where, you know, you could be emotional. You know, it's okay to be emotional, you know. Dashboard did that.
Well, but then all those bands that also aged with them or maybe came up just after them started to do that too.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, Jesus, listen to the first brand new record. It was more emo, but still similar trajectory. Listen to the Menzingers. They did that, right? They started off a little more in they weren't in the dick joke realm, but they were in the young, fun, having a good time. Okay, now we're aging. Now what do we do? You know, that type of world. And I like that music too. I mean, I'm a huge Menzingers fan. After the Party is one of my favorite Menzingers records, and it's about, hey, we're not in our 20s anymore, you know? So makes sense.
But yeah, game changing. I think in all realms, like music videos, punk goes pop, you know, like I don't think that those albums would exist without Blink.
And good point about Green Day. They did it like in bits and pieces, but they never leaned into it like Blink did. Green Day had their moments. You get the Trey Cool song at the end of Dookie. That's a moment, but it's not the whole record. Whereas whereas Blink went the other way and they gave you Adam's song, but then the rest of the record was dick jokes and you growing up as a teenager in SoCal.
It's Christmas Eve, and my grandpa just ate 7 fucking hot dogs.
Wasn't that album? Shitting his pants. He's always fucking shitting his pants.
Wait, is that what album is that?
That is Take Off Your Pants, I believe.
Yep. So they kind of continue that.
Yep.
Weaved into some serious songs,
And we deep dove that record, a while back now. It's in there when it turned 20 a couple of years ago, and that we thought obviously was a bridge to what we got with self-titled. And if you want our thoughts on that, that's back there too, man. We've been doing this for so long. We've got fucking thoughts on everything back there.
By the end of this, we're going to hit every album and every band, so buckle up.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, Blink, Enema, game changer, whether you like it or not. And some people would say change the game for worse. I think overall changed the game for the better, because I think you got newer bands out of them. So who's up? We get Nate?
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a breath of fresh air in the music scene. I mean, you think about listening to Rage Against the Machine, and then you listen to Blink, Enema of the State's like, nice. Not everything's fucking dark and gloomy. But anyways, this next one, I was a late bloomer on this one, but when I got into this band, and we've definitely talked about it. In fact, I think I've talked about this record specifically, but I'm going to bring it up because it fits this subject very well. It came to mind right away. It's 9 Inch Nails, and the album in particular is The Fragile. Me and Tone are obviously huge fans. Like I said earlier, I was a late bloomer, so this band was brought to my attention from our good friend Donnie, and I listened to a few records casually, but this one really stuck out. I don't know if it's because I finally was like, all right, I'm going to give it my full attention and really deep dive, and I think that is maybe in part to the fact that it's a double album. It's like a concept album, so you don't really have much of a choice other than to give it full attention. It's almost like double album means hey dude, pay attention. So I think this record basically shattered the mold in terms of the stereotype for industrial music, because we all grew up in the same era, the 90s going into the early 2000s. Industrial was kind of if you're wearing all black clothes all day, this is obviously it's your go-to. But if you're not, if you're listening to Blink-182 Enema of the State, you're thinking pop punk, bright colors, having fun. But this record came out at the same time, 2000, right? Deep, dark, crazy textures in terms of instrumentals, and then lyrics just out there, deep, heavy, happy, sad, but ultimately coming out on the other side in a weird, you're going to get through it elation. And I think this changed the game for rock music, and then definitely industrial for me personally, right? This is all subjective, but showed that it can be done in a way that's pure poetry.
Yeah, Nate, a great call. And it's funny, both of yours now are kind of artists that put a genre to the forefront, right? Where Pink Floyd brought long. Kind of the prog rocky stuff to mainstream. Trent brought industrial to mainstream. And there's rock tinges to both of those, right? There's some just straight up classic rock songs on that Pink Floyd record. And then there's, with this, straight up alternative rock or, that type of music on this. But there's also a ton of industrial, especially where it's a double album and it's really front to back, which put a double album out and have it be front to back, that's hard to do, man. And Trent did that, 10 times over with The Fragile. We both absolutely ride for that forever. And you're right, it was Donnie, our buddy Donnie, that got us into it. And, maybe 2003, 2004 era for me. So 4 or 5 years, 3-4 years after it came out. And fuck, man, I could listen to La Mer on repeat. It's so damn good. I could listen to Wearing This Together now on repeat. It's just there's so many good songs on this record, and it brought this kind of genre to the mainstream.
Well, I think it brought the genre to the mainstream, but also I think this, again, we use the term hall pass. It gave a hall pass that you didn't necessarily. Again, I don't know what was the single. What were the singles off this?
Wearing This Together now.
So by you hesitating proves my point. You didn't have to, because this was on probably TVT or Nothing Records, whatever it was.
Yeah.
You could have just a piece of art on a major label. It didn't have to be the cookie cutter here's a single. It's just, here's a body of work that stands on its own. So I think that changed the game for that. And labels took notice, right? The other thing is, Nate, you said something about it kind of changed industrial music. When I think of industrial music at that time, late 90s, I think about like the movie Hackers and like the rave scene where they're going to these like abandoned warehouse and there's, mesh and fishnets and shit, where it doesn't, it brought it to the mainstream, and you didn't necessarily have to play the part. Although if you were a Nine Inch Nails fan and you did all that, no offense, don't take any offense. And for a double album too, how common were double albums? I know in hip hop there were some big ones, but it defied conventional wisdom for the style of music, the rollout for the double album.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point on pretty much every element of the promotional aspect of this record, which is the artwork alone is it's basically spliced images put together with the Nine Inch Nails logo, and that's it. You got to think like record label, like you want something to draw people in. This is overly simplistic, which on an artist standpoint is probably Trent saying, yeah, I want the music to speak for itself. But talk about striking every box against the heyday of music industry, which is the year 2000, which is like,
that's the theme. That's the theme with everything we've basically said tonight,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, do something different. Don't do the cookie cutter norm bullshit. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah, step away from the norm, do your own thing. To the extent where I think he spent so much money on getting this record out to the market, where the promotional tour for this record, which is the Fragility Tour, which I think we all have show regret, it was Nine Inch Nails supporting this record with a Perfect Circle opening. From what I've read, this may not be true until we get Trent on the pod to verify that he self-funded this tour because he was so in the hole with the record label that he had to pony up his own money to really bring this album and this record and his story to vision. Which, for us, that's geek central. It's like, dude, you wanted to make this happen so bad that you ponied up, you went into the red just to make sure that your vision went to full fruition.
That's amazing if that's true. And we will get Trent on someday, right? We'll get him on to tell us if that story holds up. It's funny, I'm looking at the singles right now because we were wondering. The Day the Whole World Went Away was the first single, July of 1999. I think this came out, in September of, I think, 99 was the big deal. And We're in This Together Now was the second. And Into the Void was the third and only single. And in the middle of this kind of run, this album was out in 99. With Teeth, the follow-up came out in 05. That's when I got into the band, in between The Fragile and With Teeth. And looking at it on like my phone screen right now, I'm like, should I live that? I didn't, at the time, wasn't a fan when the record dropped, but then became a gigantic fan in the time that from when the record dropped to when With Teeth came out. And I remember the trailer, this is just a tangent, the trailer for With Teeth coming out and losing my fucking mind because of how much The Fragile had gotten to me at that point. So it's just such a great record, and it's obviously it's not the happiest record ever, but it defies all. It's a game changer. It fits this segment perfectly.
You said the trailer for With Teeth, didn't that have like a lot of lights? Like the video was like, it's hard to describe. I can
Yes.
see it in my head.
And the Nine Inch Nails logo coming at you. Yeah, it's the beginning of a song. I forget the name of it. It's one of the instrumental songs on that record. I'll look it up in a second here.
It stumped us. Good picks, Nate. I mean, obvious now that we're talking about it, but I didn't think of them or, this album in particular.
It's always like a life-changing moment in terms of like music, because it's like this was like not even remotely on my radar, and it's very reminiscent of the times. It's like you see a guy in high school wearing a black shirt that says NIN, and you're like, I don't even know what that is. And then years later, you're like, oh, fuck. I wish I knew about it then,
No doubt. Yeah. We would have been friends in high school.
It was the Quiet into Loud on Beside You in Time, which is the second to last track on With Teeth, which is a fucking amazing. The crescendo of that song is amazing. Go listen to that too. I'm going to listen to Nails tonight. I guess that's what's going to happen when we're done. I'm just going to listen to Nine Inch Nails for the rest of the evening.
Come for the Fragile, stay for With Teeth.
Hell yeah. All right. I've a couple questions for you guys.
Lay them on us.
To round us out here. We did industrial, we did prog, we did pop punk, We did Guar.
Yeah, Guar's its own genre.
Yeah, we did them. Who would you guys say? Just I want your off the cuff, first hand, like gut reaction. Would be grunge's game changer.
I think it's got to be Smells Like Teen Spirit. I mean, that was just because of how big the microphone was. Now, I'd have to think about the sequence of albums. You know what I mean? In that world, we always talk about like the big four of grunge or whatever. In the sequence of those albums, but I think that was the one that just had the biggest microphone. And look at all the bands that basically sound like them now. So it changed the game, not only in the moment, but continues to change the game. And maybe that's the ultimate game changer.
I say that's pretty accurate. I mean, they're all in their own right game changers because it's such a huge movement. I mean, you got Cornell reaching notes that, a handful of people can hit. Robert Plant back in the day. And you got Alice in Chains with Lane Staley and the whole, that whole group that is, the Seattle scene is so unique because all four of the big four are game changers in their own right. But I think Nirvana is a pretty accurate assessment. If not, I would say Soundgarden.
I agree with both of you. I think the tipping point is Smells Like Teen Spirit because of what it did. It was like, we're still listening to some hair metal in spots. You still got like November Rain happening. You still got Guns N' Roses, that type of world happening. But then all of a sudden this comes in and the kids are like, this is what we listen to now. We don't listen to any of that shit. We listen to this now. Deal with it. And that's the way the world was for, 4 or 5 years.
And it gave a free pass just to be a normal looking guy. Like, you don't have to wear makeup and you don't have to have big hair and wear spandex. It's just like, all right, I just saw this guy down at the gas station and the guy I'm seeing on TV looks similar. Like, I can relate to that more than Vince Neil parading around. You know what I mean? So I think it changed the game. It almost normalized music. You know what I mean? It's like, here's a garage band that, is the biggest band on the planet.
Right. That's exactly what they ended up being there for that brief period of time. But shit, it's a good call. And you're right. I think as far as representative from the grunge scene, it's either Soundgarden or Pearl Jam. But the movement, the moment that changed the game was Smells Like Teen Spirit. Just those cheerleaders in that dingy high school gym pretending to be into whatever they were doing, and the boys from Nirvana just changing the world.
You get another one for us?
All right, I've got one more that was courtesy of my wife. She was listening to us talk pre, and it was like, that sounds like something. She texted it to me from the living room. So one of the first artists to change the game and ditch the shackles of the label and do their own thing and become their own world. Who changed that game? She stumped me too.
I know this isn't what she was thinking about, but A Day to Remember is known for this in, the late 2000s or early 2010s. But I'm thinking of maybe a bigger act that ditched the label. Man, you stumped me.
She stumped us. I couldn't think of anybody either. I know Kanye was on his way before all the crap that he's been in the middle of. But and friend of the pod, Spose, owns everything but I'm Awesome, pretty much. So we do have people that do that now, and indie musicians left and right today. But who is like jumped to megastardom doing that? There aren't a lot of. Well, you need the label. Fuck, man, you need the label. What the hell?
So did she have one in mind, or she was just curious what we come up with?
She was just curious what we come up with.
Man, that's a good question because, where my head went was like, who changed the game by going solo? Because in some cases, the label has them on retainer, but others, I'm sure that they've gotten out of the deal somehow and shopped themselves elsewhere. That's a good one. That's one I'll be thinking about after we stop recording.
Yeah, and if you are listening to this now and you have one, hit us up. We might have come up with the answer by the time this drops, but hit us up. We want to know what you think.
Hey, you know what? Prediction. Maybe Slipknot will be, they're supposed to be leaving Roadrunner, right? They're going to do this, possibly this Radiohead album. They'd
be the biggest one, too. But they're already established, but they would be fucking massive and could do their own thing for sure. Man, now I get the gears of spinning. I'll park that. We'll maybe in the next episode we'll think about who we come back with. Absolutely. So yeah, hit us up on the socials. That's all coming here in just a minute. Super stoked to have you back with us this week. We'll have another one for you next week. And yeah, it's been fun, boys. Let's do it again.
The train rolls on, baby. We'll see you next week.
Nerd sees nerd on this one and many more to come. Cheers, nerds.
Peace, potheads.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to Podio Slave. We are at Podio Slave on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of the places that you can find us on social media. Facebook, Podio Slave Podcast. YouTube, Podio Slave Podcast there. Email us at podioslavepodcast@gmail.com. And hey, if you want to become a supporter, click on the link at the bottom of the episode and give us $1, give us $5. It keeps the lights on, keeps us going. We really appreciate that stuff. Thank you.